Astro flipping, and they're annihilating the market. They're annihilating it.
Who is Astro flipping?
Josiah and Josiah Grimes.
They have success with that?
Yeah. The money is stupid. I mean, it's stupid.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, those guys claim they do 80 deals a month.
Say they did. Cheers. Yeah. They're across multiple markets. Good to see you.
Good to see you. But if you're doing 80 deals a month, don't you own some assets?
Listen, I don't ask for anyone's tax returns. I'm happy to provide mine.
I didn't get a drink yet.
You want a proper start? All right, this is good. I love it.
So, Zacquisitions, trash to cash, Zach. Like, dude, no bullshit. Are you the biggest single owner of single-family real estate rentals in the state of Arizona?
I don't know anybody who's got more independently rentals than I do.
Yeah, it's
I don't
fucking
sit
amazing.
there and I don't worry about competition, things like that. I'm not looking for a plaque or a trophy. I just put my head down and grind.
Yeah, and you fucking grind, dude.
That's right.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, bro. Like, I was telling Lex in the car today, I'm like, of all the real estate investors in town, like Zach's one of the, in my opinion, you're one of the realest deals in town, right? You go out, you live it, you work it, you've been able to come up with phenomenal success with it, and now I see you on Instagram doing your next, whatever you're trying to do, which I want to ask you,
Sure.
To be clear with, but dude, I'm so excited that you gave me your time today and came in, because I've been wanting to get to know you more and ask you a bunch of questions so I can learn from you. Yeah. And I'm sure there's plenty of other guys out there that could do the same. So appreciate you.
No, appreciate you having me. I love doing this kind of stuff. I love your energy. We've only had an opportunity to meet a handful of times.
Yeah.
I've heard great things about you and your company. So I love this. I mean, there's so much good camaraderie and connections and synergy in this business. So it's important to take time, especially now when we're all sequestered at home due to freaking Corona. So take a time out, engage with good quality people as well, have a beer, and roll up the sleeves. I love it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. So tell me, how did you get started in real estate? What was the kickoff for you?
Sure. I grew up in an entrepreneurial type family. My father had a law firm. My grandfather had a scrap business. My other grandfather did some development. He was a true entrepreneur, had multiple different businesses, would literally roll around in his car with the checkbook looking for deals. I kind of emulate, his successes and the way his mentality of just being ready to execute and ammunition and a gun ready to shoot.
You have your checkbook on you right now?
It's sitting in my car. It's always in the car, because if I see a deal, I'm ready to write that earnest check on the spot and I'll always deliver it to you immediately.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what niche I was going to get into, but I knew that I wanted to work for myself. Had an opportunity in 2002. I went to business school. I speak Spanish. Come from business background. I had bagel businesses as kids, pop cans, all this lemonade stands, traded baseball cards, all the entrepreneurial things that we all did as kids to make a few bucks. Had an opportunity to come out to Arizona. Didn't know anybody. My cousin said, "Hey, we need some human capital. Come in this market. We're going to do some real estate deals." So they had a big operation in the Midwest. I said, talk to them about the opportunity. They did. I flew on the next plane. I happened to be living in Australia, thinking about my next move in terms of a business. I was going to set up a financial consulting business. And through serendipity, which life has it, came out here, got my real estate license in 9 days. Didn't know anybody. Had an uncle out here and just rolled up my sleeves and went to work, hit the pavement.
Where did you come from?
I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, Detroit.
Yeah.
For some reason I pegged you as an East Coast New York guy.
I don't like that mentality. I'm a Midwest guy. Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from Yuma, Arizona. It's a small town.
Shit.
Yeah.
You're from Yuma.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, small little come up to when you leave Yuma, you have options. You either go to San Diego, you go to Phoenix, you go to Tucson, or you stay in Yuma. Those are your options.
Got it.
I had to get out of Yuma. I don't know why I didn't go to San Diego. Actually, I do know why. My best friend moved to Phoenix. He was going to ASU. And I was like, fuck it. I got somebody I can go with. Slept in the car for 3 or 4 days, found an apartment, started working, and here I am. So
you look like a beach guy. You got that energy, like the tats. I'm like literally, I can see as a surfer. Do you surf?
Yeah, no, not very well.
Okay.
But I do like spending time on the beach. I'm more of a motorcycle guy. I like to get out in the dirt.
Cool.
So dude, so you're in Detroit. You make a move out here. You said your cousins were in real estate and they were hitting you up to get involved. Is that what started it?
Yeah. So prior to that, I'm from Detroit. Went to Indiana, Kelley School of Business.
Yeah.
And then I worked for a startup company right out of college during the .com era. Obviously, it was big money made, options. You get enticed by.
Yeah.
I said, hey, don't I
Late
give me a
90s?
salary? It was in 2000.
Yep.
September 2000, moved down to Atlanta, Georgia to work for this global food exchange company. It was a commodities-based business, moving into an online platform, and we were selling to perishable food companies. And I said, don't even pay me a salary. I just want to get options because I'm going to make $100 million on this. Then I'll go off and do my own thing.
Yeah.
The problem was our only revenue was derived from the vending machines. And every time I went to go buy a candy bar in the basement was our revenue. So it's kind of a joke. We blew through $28 million in venture capital, learned a lot. network with some high net worth individuals there. Every experience is a good experience, good
Sure.
or bad, and knew that obviously I just wanted to work for myself. So was planning my move to start my own financial consulting company when this opportunity arose through my cousins, came out here, and then, rocked and rolled.
Yeah. So grandfather had the checkbook?
My grandfather they were all entrepreneurs, both of them, one scrap business, one, he literally walked around, my dad's dad had a checkbook, would buy random businesses,
Right.
do different deals. I've seen some of his retirement centers and development deals, and
Okay.
he was all over. He was like a wild man.
And dad was entrepreneur as well.
Everybody,
So
all
you
the
get
guys.
you get the wild man from the dad side of the family.
Yeah, they like to take risks. They're
Yeah.
definitely risk takers. It's like going to the casino with them. They're like, don't waste time at the $5 table.
Yeah.
Let's step up to the plate. We're either going big or we're going home.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
their mentality.
Yeah, that's nice. So tell me, dude, like, what is your risk, bro? Like you have all these assets, you're pulling triggers on deals.
Sure.
I've been following you on social media, so I get to know a little bit more about what you're doing, kind of behind the scenes. From my take of it, it looks like you buy a property. Hey, if I can flip it quick, I'll do it. If I can put a tenant in place, I'll do it. How does that money work?
Yeah, I love it. So every time most people look at the upside potential of a deal, how much money can I make? I'm going to buy it based on that. Conversely, I look at the downside risk of a deal. So I say, if I buy this deal, great. Of course, we want to make our minimum. My minimum on any deal would be 10%. If it's a higher end deal, of course, I want to make more money because there's more money at risk, the opportunity cost of that capital in other deals. If you're buying $1 million deal, which I have a couple specs going right now, of course, you don't want to just aim for 100,000. I know it doesn't sound, 100,000, it's great, but when you're putting up $1 million, you certainly want to make more. So I look and say, hey, if I end up holding this or things like COVID come around, how does that look? How can I forecast this, and what can I mitigate in terms of things that are outside of my control, like the situation we're in? So then you look at the rental strategy. What are the rents? If I have to hold this, what are my carrying costs? If I'm using my lines of credit, I do what's called a lot of cross-collateralization. So I take my existing pool of rental properties, and as I need capital, I pledge and I take tranches of my homes, pledge them to the bank. They give me 65-70% of value on there. And so my carry cost is 4.5%, 5%, whatever it may be, based on the different lines. And then I say, hey, can I yield 7, 8, 9, 10% on a rental? And if I can, great. And if I can't, then obviously it's no deal. So I look at it in both buckets. And I love utilizing a dual exit strategy because it gives me leverage in the marketplace. So when I list it, I show them I'm not a motivated seller. I have 2 offers for rent, an offer for sale. It gives you the ability to be in the driver's seat on those deals.
So how much coffee you had today?
I had a little scoop of my protein shake.
Yeah, and
I'm always amped up.
This is you at 5:30 in the afternoon.
This is me all day, every day.
And so how many people can keep up with you? Do you speak Spanish just as fast?
I do.
You do. Yeah. And how many people can keep up with you? How many people are trying to slow you down verbally to keep up with you? Because I go a million miles too, man, and I gotta work on it to slow down so I can.
Got it.
I'm not running
it's
people
so
over.
So funny because even on my videos and stuff, people are like, "Man, you speak fast. Are you from New York? Or are you rushing to get out of here?" I got all the time in the world. I don't know. I talk quickly.
Yeah, dude, it's something I've had to work on a lot too because I go a million miles. But you are a different speed, my friend.
I can keep up with you. You keep up with me. We're good. We're on the same cut from the same cloth.
No doubt. Well, that's a great compliment. And someday when I got 200 plus rental properties in my portfolio, I'll concede to that. But until then, I'm going to keep striving to get to that same cloth.
All good.
So man, so I wanted to start this podcast originally, and I think it'd be interesting to talk to you a little bit about social media too, because I feel like we kind of started. You started recently, started posting more informational stuff, right?
Sure.
So, I had a kind of vision what I was looking for, what I was looking to do. The podcast to me was to get guys like you in there to hear about the struggles or the journey to get to where you're at, right? And some guys have struggles, some guys don't, but there's a journey there, right? Grandpa had the checkbook, he was buying businesses, Dad picked up on it, you picked up on it, and now you're off and running. But I'm also highly intrigued by your social media presence now and what you're trying to do with that. So you come down to this market, and we'll probably be bouncing back and forth timeline a little bit if you're okay, because your brain works fast.
Let's roll.
So jumping ahead now. So the social media push, you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot of you're at different properties every day. You're doing deals. You're talking about the different, the spreads you're making, the different strategies. You're talking about how you're hiring, painting things blue and everything else, right? Like, what are you trying to do? What do you like? I don't have a run on here, but like, you've always kind of been, my perception, kind of quietly doing what you're doing, right? And you've just been acquiring, accumulating. Everybody knows Zack Kepes' name. But you don't really see a lot of flashy Zack Kepes. You drive a Prius, I think, right? Yeah. So like now all of a sudden, like you got this camera on you, right? And you're doing this. Like, what are you doing?
Great question. So backing up a little bit, same thing. I'm a Troy hustle kind of guy. I wake up in the morning, I grind, I keep my blinders on. I always say this, and I've said it in my videos, stay in your own lane. It's easy to get distracted by people's material things, or your girlfriend's beautiful, or what everyone else has and what you don't have.
Yeah.
I don't really care. I hope everyone has success. They can drive whatever success means to them. Some fancy cars, have the plane, have the most beautiful women in the world. God bless you. I wish that in health for everybody. So I just focus on waking up. I go to the mentality that my bank account is a zero level. So it's kind of like going out fishing every single day. If you don't catch something, you're not eating. So I kind of zero things out in my head. I wake up. I don't need an alarm clock because I'm excited about the day. I'm excited about chasing opportunities, kindling and maintaining great relationships and growing. And so what transpired organically was I realized I was pretty decent behind the camera. I was kind of the class clown growing up.
You don't say.
I was a serious business student, but I always like to have fun, and everything that I do is legit. I don't stage anything. It's not like, hey, let me get a camera guide. Let's focus on something. This is just me naturally on a day-to-day basis, and I'd invite you to come out with me for a day and roll around. We have a great time.
Don't fuck with me, bro. I will be there.
All right. You can bring your guy and roll, and we have a ball.
Yeah.
And so my good friend he's chief counsel for Domino's, flies out to visit me. We lived in Spain together and studied abroad. And one day I'm at one of my houses, he's like, bro, let me just film you in the house. This would be funny. So he takes my phone, we do a little video. Hey, welcome to this house. I think it was on Lawrence. And walk through and put it on my Facebook. Don't think anything of it. I'm getting blown up. When's your TV show coming out?
Yeah.
You're unbelievable. I'm like, what's going on here? This is crazy. I'm like, hey, it'd be fun to do a show or whatever. And I'm like, nah, it's a distraction. I want to stick to my core competency, which is buying assets. Everything happens on the acquisition. Everything after that evolves naturally. You make your money on the acquisition. So kind of got engaged with the feedback from shooting this basic video that I was just marketing the home and having fun with it. And it escalated and said, oh, you should do more videos and post more stuff. People are always engaged. And then it got to the feedback was, hey, love what you're doing for multiple people. Can you tell us more about the deals? Everyone wants to hear, what did you pay for it? What are you selling it for? What's your strategy? A lot of people just kind of take a picture of it, or we're marketing it for X for rent or what for sale. But let's open up the curtains and show what really transpired. And I don't watch a lot of TV. I've seen a couple of the fix and flip shows at 5-10 minutes at a time.
Yeah, same.
And the joke is, it's like, oh, we just bought this house for $300,000. We sold it for $400,000. They made $100,000. It doesn't really work like that, And I want to kind of move that perception and show the reality of what transpires on a deal, the trials, the hardships, what it takes to get there, what's the thought process, how is the deal acquired. People want to know, and I like to show that reality. And then I started through that again, because you're right. I stay humble. I don't talk about my house or my cars or anything else because I don't care. It's irrelevant. I like to keep my private life private. I just focus on what I do, which is providing good quality housing for a lot of people. That's my goal. And so I got invited to do podcasts and did a couple podcasts. And one of the media guys that was in the room says, I would love to come out with you and grow your social media. And I love what you're doing. I think there's a camaraderie. And so I said, sure, come on out with me one day, just like I gave you an invitation. We filmed some stuff and it started to grow. And he's like, we should do an educational platform. I'm like, I don't have time for that. He's like, no, I'm telling you, there's nobody out there that's doing what you're doing on a daily. We can film it accordingly, and this would be really good information. So we kind of steering it more towards the educational platform that we're about to release. We've been calling it 7-Figure Investor Pro. We're just talking about buy and hold, fix and flip, and for somebody who's actually doing it, not some guru who's sitting out there that calls himself a guru who's done 2 deals his life and says he knows everything. So nothing is staged. It's all authentic. It's all transparent.
How do you differentiate yourself? Because I love what you said, bro, and like I love what you said at the beginning, and I can't wait to replay it and caption that about I don't ask for anybody's check or I don't ask for any tax returns, but I'm happy to show mine.
Sure.
Like. There's so many guys. I feel like locally there's so many guys in that space that sell information that just haven't really had experience in doing what you do. How are you going to differentiate yourself? How is Joe on the couch in Detroit who's trying to figure out his next step and maybe coming through this COVID piece and trying to realign his life and where he's going? He's got a little bit of cash and he's got to figure out where to put it to. Like how is he going to identify you versus the guy on the plane? You know what I mean? And do you have a thought on how you're going to present that?
Yeah, I mean, literally right before I came here, I was on a Zoom call. I'm looking at different marketing avenues in terms of the course. It's important, like I say in anything, transparency and doing, just like in real estate, you want to do your due diligence, your inspections, you really make sure it's a good fit for you. I would say it's no different than in the coaching world or anything. It's like you're not going to ask somebody to marry you until you go on a date with them a couple times, and figure out who they are and show transparency and open them up, show vulnerability, really expose yourself. So whether you're interested in getting into real estate or anything and you're looking to invest, thousands of dollars in anything, do your homework. Make sure that that person or person, him, her, whoever it is, has the experience, is actively doing the stuff, has a good, history. Look at their other, online platforms, and you really just have full exposure and make sure that you vibe with them. Someone could be a great coach and you have a different personality style. You may not learn from them.
For sure. Let me just ask you something. How many rental properties do you own right now?
200.
How many flips have you done in the last 5 years? Approximately.
Probably 500 flips.
500 flips in 5 years, 200 rental properties. You're the real deal.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm vouching for you.
I appreciate it.
Me, the kid from Yuma, says you're good to go.
I always like to say this. People can say whatever they want. Tax records don't lie. It doesn't, at a certain point, it doesn't matter. I've done thousands of flips and, big history. But it hasn't all been success. It's not like you kind of, we said we're going all over the place and this is free flow and there's no rhyme or reason for anything. We're just conversing.
Yeah.
But, I've had my hardships in this business. I mean, I've been through the 2007, bubble here.
Where were you? So 2007, I'm doing lending, right? And I'm 20. I'm late 20s. How old are you?
41.
Yeah, so I'm 1 year older than you. So same age group. I'm doing lending. Driving the Mercedes like an asshole. Living the.
Where were you lending? Which firm?
I bounced around a little bit. Smaller group. So I caught myself a little felony on accident when I was in my early 20s. So I was a little nervous about trying to go into like a Quicken or something. So I found a little group out, and still good friends of mine out in Mesa. It's kind of one of those 60-40 shops. And then I started crushing it and moved up like percentage-wise to get to smaller shops, but ended up with a good mentor, George Bowder, who was doing a lot of land, private money deals for land, like developed El Dorado out in Maricopa. And so just kind of worked my way through that.
By the way, I love Maricopa right now.
Do you?
Little secret. Yeah.
Really?
Why?
Tell me why. I don't like Maricopa.
Okay, let me tell you why I love Maricopa.
Yeah, please enlighten me.
It's and then I want to hear more about your story. But Maricopa, little secret for you viewers out there, there's no apartment complexes down there. You want to live in a nice home and all that stuff. El Dorado, for example, that community. I'm buying stuff. I just bought a last home at probably $70 a square foot.
Yeah.
You can't build if you're buying less than replacement cost. Everyone thinks Maricopa is so far. I pass on deals in Casa Grande, but I buy in Maricopa. It's 40 minutes door to door from my house. That ain't bad. If I go to East Mesa, it's 40 minutes. If I go to North Scottsdale, it's 40 minutes. If I go to Sun City, it's 40 minutes. You're hopping on that new highway right now, and zooming down there. You're taking the 10. It's not that far. You're getting good bang for your buck. And as our market has an increase of, people migrating here, our market's going to get tight. People go to the surrounding areas.
Sure,
and where's the affordability? It's right there. And every time I've had rental experience there, they're gone immediately because there's no rentals out there.
Yeah.
So it's an anomaly right now. So I think that's a good spot if you have opportunity to buy and hold.
Yeah, Good. That's good info. I've always, for me, it's interesting as we're rethinking everything with this market shift. Like, look, the market, this COVID thing happening, not really knowing where the economy's going, not really knowing where the market's going. It's given me a good time to kind of reflect on maybe some different pieces. But I've kind of, we talked about earlier about blinders and staying in your lane and doing what you're supposed to be doing. Like, all right, this is kind of my zone, the district, the historic districts of Phoenix, and I just kind of stayed like in a 5 or 7 mile radius so that I knew that if I got a call, I could go close it. If I had a flip, I could go check on it. If I have a tenant issue, I can go get to it. So I've kind of stayed in the zone and kind of blocked out some of those other things. But now as I'm rethinking like affordability and where this market's going, definitely rethinking some of those things. So I appreciate your input there. And I can't wait for a ride along so I can pick your brain some more. Like, look, man, I'm going to learn a lot from this. And I think that's, for what it's worth. I mean, I started buying distressed properties in 2007 when the market crashed with Derek Jarr and Brian North and those guys. And, we did $90 million and 300 flips or some crazy number in a short period of time. And I just, I knew that was for me, right? So I've just been in this game for about 10 or 12 years and I love it. But, I'm always looking to learn more and get better at it,
We all are.
So 07 happens and you're in your late 20s, maybe early 30s. What happens to you? Where are you at? Like, have you already have a portfolio working? Are you deep in real estate at this point?
I'm 100% vested in real estate. That's all I know. That's all I've done in Arizona. All my eggs were kind of in one basket. I had land
You've never
deals.
seen distress before this?
No, because from 2002 to 2007, it was smooth sailing. It was an easy market, right? If you're throwing a dart at a board that's as big as the wall, you're not going to miss because you have what's called appreciation behind you. Yep. So even if you make a poor decision and the market rises, you're going to be protected based on that investment, even based on whatever you did wrong.
Sure.
So you're fine. And the market was healthy. But what we saw in 2007 was a huge wake-up call. It was a learning experience. But I like to say if you're going to go fly internationally and you're a pilot, or you're a passenger and you're looking at the plane, I'd like to look at the record of the pilot before I hop on that plane. Having gone through that at the time, obviously very difficult, but having coming out of it, or it's like going surfing with a crazy wave, you know how to manage that tide and the waves, and you can read it better. Or the pilot's been through multiple storms and lightning, he's very comfortable because it's nothing new to him. So I like to say all these people that have come in, these new gurus, oh, I know what I'm doing. Have you been through the volatility of any market? Have you been in a down market? What did you do during the time? Did you hunker down? Did you sell assets off? Did you buy into it? I say this all the time. Warren Buffett says when people are greedy, be fearful. When people are fearful, be greedy. There's a lot of fear in the market. And all I remember was I hunkered down, right? What do? I want to lessen all my overhead. So at the time, I rented out my DC Ranch house to Scotty Upshaw. He's a hockey player at the time. And him and his girlfriend, Melanie, she was some reporter. They lived in my house. My parents had a second home up there. I moved into a bedroom. They lived in Michigan. I literally sold everything that I could, got my expenses pretty much covered, and I started training for triathlons because the market kept going down every single day. I didn't know what to do other than focus on my health. If you don't have your health, you don't have your wealth. So I focused on that and kind of just watched the market for 2 years, did some traveling, kind of like you hunker down in these times and think about things and reflect. Look at the macro perspective. Sometimes you're in the forest, you don't see the trees.
For sure.
So got super healthy and got my mind straight.
So you're full Zack, full steam in 2006. Same Zack that's sitting here.
Yeah, same
right?
Zack.
1,000,000 miles an hour. Right. 2007 hits. Now all of this was the strategy still the same? If you can get your rents, great. If you can get your 10%, you'll sell. Was the strategy still the same? So it wasn't a lot of pain necessarily. Like if a house is worth $100,000 today and it's worth $70,000 tomorrow, but you're getting the rents that you want off it, it really doesn't matter, right?
Because that wouldn't matter, right? You're buying what's called an annuity of income. You're getting a coupon. The strategy then, because I had the partnership with those guys who provided the capital, was all flips. So it actually wasn't that bad. So we didn't get stuck.
You had partners at the time?
Yeah, those are the guys that we did the 50-50 model, the OPM, from 2002 to 2007 before the market imploded.
Okay.
So we held some land stuff, but it was owned free and clear, so there wasn't a lot of debt on there. Then we had a couple homes that we were trying to sell. So we took a hit on those at the end. Obviously, if you didn't get hurt, you weren't really invested in the business.
Sure.
We got hurt. But the biggest thing that hurt me, and we talked about trials and hardships, is those cousins that I did business with. I reinvested all the money that I made, 7 figures, back to them, and they overextended themselves. They had big net worths, and it became a massive tragedy. Those guys didn't do, things ethically, we'll just say it that way. And the annuity of income I was getting off that investment passively at 10% dried up. I started, looking for my mailbox money on my investment, all the money that I made. So
your real estate money that you were flipping, you take that money, you give it to
invest it to them.
You give it to your cousins
because I trusted them.
They're giving you a 10% return.
Correct.
Right, and then the mailbox money stops.
It stops, and I'm like, what the fuck?
So your flip money's done. You can't.
And there was no flips then, so I
took
was just
some time,
relying on it. Listen, at 10% and $1 million,
great.
and you have no overhead,
Yeah.
you're doing okay at late 20s just because you built up a nest egg. I'm like, all right, I'll be cool, I'll ride through this. That check stops, your heart skips a beat.
Yeah.
The next month they say everything's going to be fine. It's not. You hop on a plane, I go out there, say what's going on. We're working some things out, everything's going to be fine. It never was fine. I never got another check. I got a 1099 showing my losses. One guy got, he ended up killing himself, unfortunately. And it was just a bad situation.
Yeah, that's crazy how money works like that.
It's unfortunate. So I learned that statute of frauds have everything in writing. I didn't, you trust somebody when you're doing millions of dollars of business on a daily basis. You think everything will be fine. I don't need a document. But you step back from it and say, moving forward for any agreement, in writing, executed, notarized, don't make dumb mistakes. And anybody can get in financial hardship if you're greedy. Those guys didn't need to be greedy. They had huge net worths, but they wanted to get as big as possible, and that's not necessarily the greatest thing to do.
Yeah, it's hard, man. I mean, look, it's one of those things. I think even in our real estate space, right? Like, how big do you want to be? Like, what's the right size? You know what I mean? Like, I'm struggling with that now with the way the market's shifting, and I think we run a little different model. Do you have any partners or teammates? I mean, it's just you, right?
Just me.
Is that from the 2007 experience of losing that cash in that deal? Did that kind of mold who you are today, just to go run this by yourself and rock and roll?
To a certain degree, yes. I like having control. I'm type A, so I do everything myself. So to have a partner would pretty much slow me down unless they're going to carry an equal weight, or they're going to maybe run a commercial side of the business unless you have some amazing
value
synergy.
add,
But for me, it just doesn't work. And I think that in terms of buy and hold strategy, having a partner is not a good idea because life happens. Let's say your partner goes out, gets married, or they need
a divorce
to
or,
sell. Whatever intervening variables occur, and their utility to selling and yours are different. You're at a crossroads. It's just a mess. Additionally, if you have a partner on there, who's financially responsible? Are you going to cross-collateralize with both your signatures and use that up? It gets into a cluster. So if you're flipping, that's one thing to have a partner. Go do whatever you want. But on a buy and hold strategy, I solely recommend doing that individually.
Yeah. So you're now in a situation where a lot of your capital's gone.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, it was pretty much like virtually done.
Yep.
Yeah.
So and it's family, so that hurts.
Yep.
Right. And
extended family.
Yeah. And so I've creeped on your Instagram to see that you've done a lot of world traveling. You mentioned that you were in Australia already. You're doing the Ironman stuff. So you're all this hard work you put together. The money's gone. The market's tough to figure out. You're taking a break from it. You're working on your brain, your body. Yeah. Pushing yourself in a different form and fashion. Are you traveling around a little bit? Is that where you got that bug?
Yeah. So I traveled. I figured that's a good time.
Did you always have the international bug, or is that?
I've always had the bug. I studied in like the guy from the story from my first video, David from Spain. We traveled all throughout Europe, and I was blessed as a kid. Our family did some international trips. We go to different vacation spots. Yeah. I think it gives you a different perspective of the world, of people, of engaging with people, understanding different cultures and communities. I think it just makes you worldly and intelligent individual. I think that also you mentioned speaking Spanish. When I'm doing deals with Latino families that don't even speak English, there's so much respect given the fact that I'm speaking directly to them in Spanish, going through contract deals, or if you ever need anything, they can call me direct and not have to worry about anything. So I didn't do it because of that. I just felt a vested interest with the language, and I felt a deep connection with the community and the culture and the people, and it was just great. But not to digress, I just think it makes you more worldly, humble.
For sure,
individual.
Yeah. Are you still doing endurance athlete type stuff?
I get like when I do something, I'm 150% in, so I just have a tendency to burn myself out. So I did triathlons, then I got into the CrossFit world and started coaching that, and
So here comes Zach with 200 properties, Coach Zach, right?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm on
getting
my
this $40
$20, I think it was per course.
Yeah.
Zach, I'll get your paycheck next week. I don't know if I'm going to make it this week, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love. It was not about the money.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are you doing now for fitness?
As we speak, due to Corona, I've created my own little fitness deal. I run up and down my driveway. I got some dumbbell weights. I got a little basic bench. It's like the old primitive push-ups, sit-ups, walk my dog a ton, fundamentals. You are what you eat.
Back to the basics.
Literally back to the basics. And it's funny. I just had a conversation right driving here, and gyms are starting to open up. Are you going to rush back? I'm like, you know what? I've kind of gotten used to my little, private routine. I feel good. I swim laps in my pool. I mean, I get about 6 strokes, and I turn around to the next side. Yeah. You make do with what you got. I mean, it is what it is, and I'm comfortable. I'm not so sure I'm going to be ready to jump back into that gym environment immediately. I'm going to let things play out a little bit in case there's some sort of recourse or whatnot. I've been social distancing and respecting what's going on, and mitigate risk as much as possible. Same thing in business.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. So what
about your gym stuff? Hold on, I know you're into that.
Yeah, I was into that. It's funny how this thing all went down. So I mean, I was real heavy into getting in the gym. I liked lifting heavy weights, putting them down, waiting around for a couple minutes, lifting them again. I felt like I was pretty strong, and then I get out of it, and I'm like, man, my body's starting to feel pretty good. And my son got into riding mountain bikes, and I come from riding motorcycles, and he's got a motorcycle, but it's just never really kind of like taken. He's a stick and ball sport kid, And so he's like, mountain bike, Dad, mountain bike. So I go buy a used mountain bike from a buddy for $500. I'm on this thing. I'm like, it's kind of fun. Yeah. And then I'm in the store getting it, like the Bicycle Ranch or whatever, getting it kind of tweaked up to fit me a little better. And I'm like, you guys are busy. Nobody else is busy. He's like, but we're working on this little shitty BMX stuff and bells for your beach cruise. And I'm like, we're not selling any high-end stuff. I'm like, you got any deals? He's like, well, we got this bike over here as a road bike, carbon fiber wheels. The deal. Yeah. And I'm like, what percentage off is that? So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, that's a wholesale deal.
Correct. He's like, I'll ride this through COVID, and I'm going to flip it.
Yeah. So I buy this bike. I got the spandex, man. I got full kits. I'm in spandex. I got red shoes. Yeah. And I've been putting in about 150 miles a week on the road bike.
That's good.
And it kicks my ass, and I'm last, and I get dropped, as you know what that means. I had a buddy who was pulling me down Tatum.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm drafting and he's teaching me the ways and shit. And I come up on him and I put it on him, right? And I didn't necessarily mean to.
Yeah.
And then he catches me and then just goes off into like this little dot, right? Just disappears on me. And, you know, it's just demoralizing, bro. Sure. You're on a bike and your buddies leave you and you're just out here. And he's like, look, dude, it was an offensive move, right? You blew by me. You know, you can barely push somebody on a bicycle like that and it gets all squirrely. I didn't get into your draft. I had to catch up to you, right? And then I just put it to you to show you what it's like to get left behind. You're supposed to drop in front, pull for a while, then it's my, which is what I was trying to do.
Right.
So like the etiquette and you know, getting gassed and trying to like hydrate properly and it's just a whole new sport for me, and I'm not good at it. And nothing I did was fast twitch, and now I got to get however many. You know, they don't count like a Peloton. They don't count the spins or
RPM, the cadence. Yeah.
You know, so but like trying to get that up, and I got my little buddies that are 150 pounds that are smoking me. I'm like, you haven't smoked me in shit.
They have no
anything.
upper bodies and all their legs, and they're skinny, and they're all shaved up.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, so that's me. And I've been enjoying it, dude. It's a new challenge, and so I bought some weights. Every time something pops up on Craigslist or like OfferUp or Facebook, I'm like, how much? Like $225 a pound? Like, nah. Found one for 75 cents. Bought the whole gym.
That's amazing.
So I do have a gym in my garage now.
Yeah.
I have the road bike, the mountain bike. So I've just been doing a lot of that. I've been really enjoying it.
You should get on the Peloton.
I have one.
Do you like it?
I do. You know, it's gotten less fun because I want to go out there and like not really necessarily
I'll buy
compete.
your Peloton when you sell it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, the Peloton's great.
Yeah.
You don't have one?
No.
You gotta get one.
My sister just got one.
Yeah.
It's funny, where I live, we don't have direct access. We have internet, obviously, but it's not. I live in a mountain, and they don't have direct connection, so you're paying for data. So if you tap into the Peloton, my courses would probably cost me $100.
200 rental properties, bro.
I'm good.
I can't pay the $37.
It's rough, not per course. You
Yeah.
know, I'll pick my battles. I tuned up my beach cruiser and I'm riding it up the hills. People are looking at me, no gears.
Yeah.
You know, you push back
Single
with a
speed,
brake.
yeah.
I'm with you. Everyone used to have like the fanciest bike, and it was always, who got the new wheels? Like it matters. But what you got was called a humble pie.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. You go out there and think you just get into a new sport, but that's good because it makes you, work harder and think about, all right, how am I going to get faster? You got to stay in your own lane in biking, stay in your lane in everything.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. But I felt that road biking more than ever right now, everyone's so attracted to these electronics and navigations and phones and texting. I started having a lot of buddies get hurt out there. So I'm like, you know what? Peloton's a safe move. Riding in my neighborhood's a safe move.
Peloton's amazing, dude.
But going down Tatum, Pima, so many guys get hit and some guys killed. It's just, you want to be safe with that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm like, at this stage, I'm not willing to risk my life riding the bike.
Yeah, absolutely. At the tender age of 41. So look, dude. So where you don't have you're a one-man show to some degree, and I know you have support in construction and design and some other things. Mm-hmm. Like, and I see that you do buy some deals from some local guys. I mean, you'll pick up deals. How are you generating the majority of your deals?
So all through marketing. When I first started, yes, we did marketing. We did direct to seller marketing, and we had a company called 1-800-NO-AGENT. So I understand the platform and the background in terms of going out there, how much you spend per month, what's your cost per deal, what's your marketing techniques. We did TV, billboards, the whole thing. Now, because I've been in this business so long, I'm reaping the rewards through reputation, execution, and even this, like you mentioned before, the social media. What a great tool that costs you nothing to put out videos to get some sort of, branding and awareness of what you're doing. People say, oh, this is the real deal. I'm going to give you a shout. So what's unique about me and how I differentiate myself is a lot of people are using hard money, so their cost of acquiring that deal is expensive. They're paying a point or two, the cost of the carrying. It doesn't matter. They have overhead. They're spending money on marketing. I literally work out of my house. I drive around in my Prius, so I have no overhead. So what may not be a deal to somebody after using the hard money and their overhead and their costs and their staff, I can turn into a deal because I'm literally running with no overhead. So it's unique. So it's word of mouth, it's execution, it's great relationships. People know that, hey, maybe they can make a few dollars more from somebody else that maybe isn't as experienced or willing to take more risk, but they also know that they may not close. They say, I'm going to close. They don't put up the earnest money. They jeopardize their reputation. I also differentiate myself in that I bring a buffet kind of consultative philosophy to the table when I acquire the deal. So I enhance the relationship between the wholesaler and the seller by giving tremendous flexibility. I understand that not every deal is the same. I understand that every seller and every house is different. So it's like a doctor. You walk in my office and you walk in my office. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna go through the same diagnostics tools, but I'm not gonna come up with a solution whether I'm gonna put you on a prescription or you're gonna get surgery right away until I get a full, chart, information, blood tests, and everything else. I can fully evaluate what's going on, what are your needs, if any, or I tell you you're in perfect health and go ride your bike. So I can work strategic, back end deals. Hey, you need post possession. Hey, you want to close immediately and I'll release X amount of dollars to you. Hey, you need to move into one of my rental properties. So it's more than just buying the deal in dollars. Some wholesalers will take a small haircut knowing they don't have to babysit me. I'm self-sufficient. I'm going to close. They don't have to wonder where the money's coming from. So there's a benefit. So they can move on with their day. They know the deal is done and it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, that's nice. It's always good to have good buyers like that in your pocket for sure, and obviously be a good buyer like that. So when you're, when you're out hunting for deals, I mean, how about this, man? Like the struggle that I have, right? Like, or my vision of starting the District Phoenix was, hey, let's get a bunch of like-minded investors, young guys like Caden you met downstairs, right? Guys that are trying to get their come up, get started, give them an infrastructure to get started within, give them the ability to understand how to do this deal, get a good return from them, 2-3 year return from them. They get an education from me, they get return here, and we build this up, and then internally within these walls we have the chance to pluck off the buy and hold assets, the fix and flips, and what we don't want we wholesale out, right? And listen, that comes with overhead, it comes with marketing expenses, there comes a lot with that, right? And so, my hopes were, and maybe being readjusted with COVID, was like, hey, have this machine that's built and kind of have it be self-sufficient and do its thing and have a nice little business running off it that generates leads to take down to acquire the long-term assets. And I have been able to acquire a good handful of long-term assets. We do a flip here and there. I don't really like doing the flips as much. For the most part, I'm trying to buy and hold or wholesale, just because it's hard for me to manage a whole team over here and then the construction that goes with it. So that's obviously not your game plan. You're by yourself to a certain extent. You have 200 rental properties that put off good cash. You could, I would imagine, retire today and not have a whole lot of stress. Why, outside of the fact that you run 1,000,000 miles an hour, what are you doing this for, man? You know what I mean? What's the reason why you're not back in Australia? Why aren't you in Spain? When's enough, man? What does it work?
I get this question all the time. Even my bankers, when I'm like, hey guys, I need another 3 million or 5 million. Here's a tranche of 15 homes. They're like, you want more houses? It's not about the game of Monopoly per se. It's just about the game. It's not about the money. You're right. I could stop working, but I would be depressed. I like to be engaged. I have a fiduciary duty, I feel, to help my guys and my crews out. It's like a family, I'm telling you. And it's just, we have a good time. When it stops being fun, it's not about the money.
Yeah.
Of course it helps, but that's not why I wake up. I wake up because I like the art of the deal. I like going in and assessing and coming up with a solution to every single patient. It keeps me engaged. It's like working out. Sometimes working out is not fun, but after you do it, you feel great. And that's the lure. Every deal is different. It's like going on a treasure hunt, but real money, real people. And it's like an adult game with real consequences, and I enjoy that.
Yeah.
And it's a competition as well. So if you look at my past and you say, hey, what attracted you to Ironman, or what attracted you to CrossFit competition? Some people do CrossFit just for themselves. I was like, no, I'm going to win the CrossFit Games. Of course, no way did I win the CrossFit Games. You're going to come close to qualifying.
Do they have a 5'2" class? Class?
Exactly. Well, I'm 6'4". I'm standing on my roof. I'm on the top of my trunk. But no, it's just, when you see something, you want to be the best you can at it. And then again, it's not about that. It's about, just making the wins, growing organically, helping out the team and the contractors, and just, and having fun. I wake up and I have a great time. I mean, I like to be engaged. Even the design stuff is fun now. I used to think, I'll outsource it, whatever. I'm having fun choosing the colors or thinking about each house is unique, just like each seller is unique. Each asset is unique in its own right, and you want to maximize it to its highest potential.
Sure.
It's a game.
Yeah, so I asked this question lightly because I want to ask the question: have you ever taken a loss, right? And I know that with your strategy of, hey, I'm going to try to sell this thing, and if I don't, I have a rental. Do you take any beats right now? I mean, I know 2007 you got kicked in a little bit, but is there adversity in your life right now? When you're out here doing these deals, what's a loss for you? What are you having to overcome? I mean, kudos to you. Things seem like they're going very well at all times, and you have a lot of flexibility to take some L's. But what roadblocks are you running into? What are you stumbling across right now?
Sure. Obviously, it's about assessing the risk. Obviously, right now with COVID, and we're still in the middle of this thing, hopefully we're coming out and plateauing. You just want to buy smarter. I'm not so worried, and we spoke about this a little bit before. If you're going to buy a stock and you know it's going to pay you a dividend, you're not so worried about the pricing. You don't have to look at it every single day.
Right.
Warren Buffett's philosophy is buy and hold. His stock price is, hundreds of dollars or $100,000 per share.
Sure.
So that mitigates people from the volatility of getting in and out of the stock. No different than a buy and hold strategy. If I could tell you, here, Andy, here's a home for $200,000 and you're going to make 9% on your money for the next 10 years. You don't have to worry about where that house is trading at per se. You just want to make sure you're getting that mailbox money. And that's an annuity of income, and you can sleep, you can go on your bike, you can go play with your kids, you can kind of shut your mind up knowing you're getting that return.
Right.
Other people are so worried about the day in and day out, what's happening on a daily. I'm not so worried about that. Yes, if I have an opportunity to buy something and flip it and make a great profit, I'm not going to worry about the tax implications to dictate my business strategy because I'm making a huge profit. I'll move on, and you're never going to go broke taking a good profit.
Right.
Move on to the next deal, which I'm a deal junkie and I love doing deals. Conversely, if I can lock in a good return. So today I'm getting discounts because one, hard money is drying up. It's harder to get. Two, there's less buyers due to fear. Three, people are nervous, so they get a little higher utility to sell. They're like, you know what? We don't know where this is going to be. So uncertainty causes fear, and fear causes people to have higher utilities and make emotional decisions when really they don't have to per se. Depends on the situation. Well, guess what? If I planned on flipping that, I'm going to need to buy it a little bit deeper because your buyers are also worried about uncertainty.
Right.
And those agents are instilling the fact that you can buy cheaper. So you have to factor that in your micro perspective with the macro and the granular level, thinking about what is the domino effect of each decision. So for me in these times, you just buy a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
And if that means me getting a higher yield for the long-term hold, that's a benefit to me. And if that means, mitigating risk and I flip. I haven't had an L, thankfully, since 2007 or 8, which is great. The last deal that I lost a few dollars on was because I had like an intern that I felt bad. I gave him equity in a deal and he needed to get hard money. So we just agreed to put hard money on the thing. And it was a nightmare. And there was the cost of capital. And I just tried to do somebody a favor. And the deal, we needed all these permits. And it just became a nightmare. And so, hence the reason I like rolling individually. I operate lean. I'm not going to let the hard money clicking in my ear every single day to then, have a high utility of selling because I'm worried about the interest clicking.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit of these lines of credit. You don't have that.
Yeah. So from let me go back to the person that may be trying to buy your information. Okay. And you started off, you got your clock clean, you lost $1 million, you're out doing Ironman stuff, and then 2009, 10, you start buying again, right? Mm-hmm. What's your price point as you're buying there?
I was buying homes for $30,000 and $40,000.
So you're in Maryville.
Yeah, Maryville.
You're buying Maryvilles for 30s and 40s.
Yep.
And you have the cash to pay for these, or are you leveraging private money at this point?
I was OPM at this point. My brother-in-law had money, and my dad had a few dollars. Whoever it was, I was doing a 50-50 model. I'd buy a couple deals. We would only flip only. And by the way, back then, I wasn't on any rentals, so I didn't get annihilated. I just lost my cash from reinvesting in the cousins.
Right.
So I'm kind of starting at a zero slate. So I built this model over the course of the last 10 years.
So you got your friends and family money. You're buying something for 30. You're selling it for 60. You guys are splitting up 15, 20 grand.
Yeah.
And then at some point you have enough to buy one by yourself.
Correct. So every couple deals I get one for myself. Every couple deals, one for myself. I'd flip those and then I would dollar cost average. That was the move. So eventually I raised and I created a fund basically, but I didn't like that because the money was commingled. I spent $25,000 with an attorney. I realized, this is not an effective model. Anyone who offers to be in a deal, I'm going to do a first in, first out kind of FIFO type model, which is called. And I said, hey, you want to pledge $200,000? Great, we can get 6 homes with rehab. I raised money from anyone and everybody I could get my hands on, sold those assets, and then boom, I had maybe 40 or 50 or 60 homes. And the hedge funds started coming in, the REITs, and that was like a kid in Candyland. It was a payday. They're like, hey, you're sitting on quite a few doors, Mr. Zack Ventures. Yeah, how can I help you? So we have $1 billion. I said, give me a proof of funds for this $1 billion.
Yeah.
When they started talking cap rates on single-family residential, you knew something was off.
Yeah.
So I said, it turns out that my neighbor at the time ran one of the hedge funds, and he's like, no, we have that kind of money behind us. This is what's going on. It's a quick education. I'm like, well, let's start with 10. And I was selling those for like 110 a door, and my basis was 60. And I'm like, oh man, this could be a good day.
Yeah.
Because I knew, and I had all these relationships. Again, no one was buying. I had all these REO relationships from my experience from before, so I knew all the bank brokers in town and everyone from the banks. And they were just handing me the deals. Here, we're asking 35. Here's 25,000. Let me see if I can get that done. By the way, keep the commission. I just want the deal.
Right.
I'm buying these things. So I was putting more money in the houses than I was on the acquisition side, which is crazy. Buy a house for 25, put in 30. I'm in it for 55, but now I can sell it for 100. I go back to that and get that a million times
for
over.
Sure.
But I was working literally 20-hour days, every single thing.
So help me understand the fun piece of it, because you went from friends and family money, you got a couple dollars for yourself, you go drop 25 G's on a PPM or however that works out, and you say, hey, we're going to raise money. You get guys to put in X amount of dollars into the fund, but now it's the fund money is not first deed of trust necessarily. It's kind of spread out over several deals, and so when somebody wants out, there's some issues. Like what created a problem for you in the fund? Why was the fund an issue?
What I realized was it wasn't exciting for the investors to put in $100,000 and maybe get back $3,000 on a deal when it's broken up against 30 people. And also there's maybe somebody wanted liquidity and somebody didn't. The same reason why I don't like partnerships. So I said, hey, thank you for investing in the fund, but I'm going to do this a little bit differently. You're still going to get in. So the first people to pledge or show interest, I'm going to utilize your money. Once you're out, I'll tap onto the next person that committed to the fund. And that made it cleaner. So they were in a first deed of trust. We had an operating agreement. Everything was done on the up and up.
Yep.
So that made it much more clean, especially from an accounting standpoint too.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And then when I sold...
And you're not messing with SEC and all that.
Not messing with any of that stuff. It made it much easier. And then I sold in tranches. Those people got massive paydays because they were getting 50% returns, 120%, 150% annualized returns because it was literally, I'd stabilize it. I even have that thing rented for these hedge funds. And then it was like, we're done. And then on every one of those deals, I go pick up another one. And every time I had those deals in escrow, the hedge fund already knew the quality of the work that I was doing. I was doing it right. They were performing. They had a history of 6 months of work working with me on those assets that were stabilized. And they said, we'll take as many as you can give us. And I sold hundreds of homes. So I built enough to then dollar cost average and then slowly built my portfolio. Then it was all cash. And then banks finally opened up in 2011 and said, oh, we'll lend you money. Oh, thanks, now you'll lend me money after 2 years of struggle.
So slow down and explain dollar cost average.
Sure. So if I can go out there in the market and I retail a home, let's say to these hedge funds for $100,000, okay? I can sell on the retail level at $100,000, but I can rebuy that same asset distress at $50,000.
Right.
I'm going to sell here. I'm going to rebuy back here. So it lowers my overall basis, and I can keep doing that time and time again.
Right.
So there's an anomaly in the marketplace.
Sure. So 09 to 11, you're flipping a ton of deals. You're getting creative with the financing in the sense that how to raise money, how to figure out partnerships, how to figure out how to move deals. Sure. You're now acquiring a little bit of money for yourself. Mm-hmm. 2011 comes, the bank say, hey, we're interested in doing some deals as well.
I started getting calls, and they said, hey, we see you've done a lot of transactions. Are you interested in any banking money? I'm like, am I interested in banking money? Are you fucking kidding me? I've been waiting for banks to open up. I asked you in 2009 when I'm buying these deals, getting a 20 cap rate. Yeah. If I had a bank money, I wouldn't have to dilute it at 50%. But I'm not a greedy person. I'm thankful for all those relationships. Sure. I'm still friends with all those people that invested today. And I landed some major whales that were not even friends and family, that just came from referrals. That's why it's always super important to engage every single person you know and be concise in terms of what you're doing. Like literally, I'm walking my dog today and some lady's like, hey, good morning. I'm like, how are you? She goes, oh, I'm getting in my head about I have a Zoom call. I'm raising money, or I'm pitching my deal to Vegas on this thing. I'm like, cool. She's like pitching me in 3 seconds walking by. And she says, oh, what do you do? I said, I buy distressed assets and real estate. Oh, that's interesting. It's enough to engage somebody, hook them in, and open up the conversation. Yeah. And that's what I've always done with people, because everybody's a potential prospect. You're a seller, you're a buyer, or you may be a capital provider. Yeah. Every single person.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think that's the cool thing about the social media aspect too. I don't know if, for me, it's been interesting. I've never, look, you're doing lending, and your friends and family know you do loans, and hey, call me. I've always had this like stigma about being a real estate agent of like, oh, here comes Andy trying to put me in his car and drive me around, you know? So it's like, it's always been a challenge for me, like, hey, look at me, like, whatever. But the social media aspect has been interesting, because as I've been staying consistent with it, like, hey dude, like, where can I put some money, or hey, what would you do this? Maybe getting calls from people out in like California that I don't even know. Right. It's like they're like, hey dude, I got 180 grand, I want to do something with them. Like, can't really do anything out here in LA. It's interesting because the family knows now, like, hey, if they want to put money or if they're looking to buy, they call. So it just kind of creates that new conversation. So it's been a kind of a fun fun new thing for me to experience.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw you out here and I saw you building this room. Like, this is just cool. Like, this whole environment, things that you're doing. Nobody knows. I mean, you could either be that hermit, you can expose yourself, show what you want to show. I think it's important to keep certain things private, obviously, and expose the stuff that's pertinent to your business. I mean, what you're doing here is awesome. I told you when I came in this building, it's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, thank you. So, 2011, you got banks clamoring for money. Now you have some cash on your own, but I don't hear any about rentals yet.
Right. So part of the money I was doing was flipping, but every single one I could get a 20% yield, I would keep those. So I started building a little portfolio. Maybe I had 10 homes at that point from averaging.
So you buy something for $100,000, right? And it puts off $20,000 net to your pocket. You're keeping that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, then it was even better. Let's use the examples of what I was buying. 30,000 put in 25, and I'm getting $900 a month. The returns are exponential. I mean, all day long.
Yeah. And you still have all those ones?
I mean, I've
do you
sold
level
some.
up to some degree?
I have some that I bought from literally homes that I've owned for 10 years. Yes. Yeah. You know, at a certain point, it makes sense that you set in your mind mentally, if this home ever hits this number, I'm going to sell it. Because what you want is the more of the sexy portfolio per se, as long as it's at the right price. When I say sexy, I'm not saying go pick up, 10, $1 million homes.
Yeah, but at what point does that asset become a depreciating asset for you? Because like if you buy it for whatever, let's just say you're all in it for 50 G's, right? And after 10 years of being lived in, that thing needs to be refreshed, right? You've got to put a new roof on it. You got to check the AC. You got new refrige. Like at what point are you modeling that at all? Or are you just saying, hey, that's just cost of doing business, and I'm just running the roof off these things?
That's the cost of doing the business. I like to think my tenants take good care. Obviously, I do inspections. I review them. If I have a bad tenant, they're not paying on time, I get them out. But at that basis, you can't reproduce that. So that thing's going to keep getting. Even if I put in 10 years, $30,000 or $40,000 and do a full gut remodel on that home, I still can't reproduce that asset today, so it's great. But what I could do is I could take that asset, sell it for $200, get my long-term capital gain, and then transition into something maybe that's built in 1980s instead of a 1960s John F. Long.
Sure.
So I'm like in areas like Mesa. I'm a big advocate for, you mentioned Maryville. I started getting out of Maryville, going North Phoenix, Glendale, Peoria, more to the tile roofs, the stuff that we call Wall Street sexy. Wall Street doesn't like those 1960 block homes. They like the stuff that looks good on paper. Everyone likes that naturally, but there's a lot of people that will prefer to live in Maryville, even as a rental, because that's where they feel comfortable, over something that we deem as sexy.
Right.
Style and desirability is unique to the individual and the family, and that's something you got to respect. People, you may like a Mercedes and I like a Range Rover. It's all different stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So you're slowly acquiring some rentals through this money now.
Yeah.
Like at some point, does it just take off for you? I mean, is like you're obviously a smart guy. You've been able to put a lot of stuff together, and grandpa was a big piece of your life. Dad's an entrepreneur as well, big piece in your life. I mean, you're moving big money around. Does something click 11, 12, 13? I mean, is there a moment in time where you're just like bang, and all of a sudden the roof just the numbers shoot up, or has this been a slow, quote unquote slow from 10 years, like 200 homes, but has it been kind of a slow burn up to that, or does something just happen and trigger and you're like, okay, no more flipping out onto the REITs or building institutional funds with their deals and getting a 60 grand pop? I'm going to hold these things. When's the transition there?
Great question. So there's not one specific thing, but I think that when you look at taxation, once you reach a certain level of success, you realize, hey, I'm flipping all these deals and I'm paying 40% to the government, right? Yeah. You do a wholesale deal, you make 10 grand, you don't really make 10, you make 6, you're paying 40%. Even then you got your overhead. So your net maybe is 4 grand, whatever it is. So it's you want to look at your pockets and think strategy, and let's step back. I always like looking at the macro picture when you're in again, I said it before, you're in the forest, you don't necessarily see the trees. You want to step back at the helicopter perspective, and having multiple conversations with my tax consultants and, my different attorneys, they said, hey, think about, we looked at your returns, and if you could just stabilize these for a year, instead of paying 40, you can pay 20 and hold on to it.
And what do you mean stabilize?
So stabilize, rent it out as opposed to the flip model. Say stabilize, you want to just remodel it, get the home in good condition, get it tenant ready, put a tenant in there, hold it for a year, then I'm going to have what's called a long-term capital gain.
Right.
So if I have an opportunity, if you look at it and say, hey, you're going to make 40 on a flip and pay 40%, you're paying $16,000 in taxes versus 8. If I can bring in, $1,200 or $1,300, when you aggregate your monthly income on the rental and then you factor in your tax savings by holding it for a year, even if I went to the buy and hold strategy for 1 year and said,
sure,
after 1 year, I told the tenant, I'm only going to hold this for a year, you're going to have to move on in a year, but I'm going to give you a little discount or whatever it may be. When you look at those numbers, assuming the market's stable, because you're running the risk of market, fluctuations and volatility, your yields are pretty big. I talked about making 10%, but if you run that strategy through that, 2009 to where we are today, your returns are going to be in the 20% level.
Yeah. How many people do you have counting your money?
I don't have anyone counting. We say how many's working behind the scenes. Here, when I brought my tax returns. No, I have a full-time bookkeeper, an assistant bookkeeper, and then they manage all my P&Ls, send it out to my tax consultant, and then there's 2 tax.
So you'll have I'll say a plethora of LLCs that you'll use to insulate yourself. Some liability based on how many properties you want to put in LLC. Is that what you mean by the P&Ls, or each property you run individually?
No, each property is run individually regardless of what entity it's in, and then it all flows through you as the sole owner. But it's important. I don't want to spend my time running numbers. I couldn't even tell you what the money I made, in the first quarter. Yep. I don't focus on that. I focus on the relationships and acquisitions.
So you got a couple of bookkeepers, you got a CPA. Anybody else helping you with the strategy of money or modeling things out, or is this all Zack hunkering down and figuring it out?
This is all me figuring it out through the trials and tribulations and looking, geez, I just spent X on taxes last year. What can I do to make the same money or more money by modifying a strategy? And common sense says buy and hold. Look, everyone's got different strategies and models. There's hey, you do some wholesaling, you do some flips. It's good to have diversifications. The good news about wholesaling is you're going to mitigate market risk, right? You buy a deal, you have an inspection period. If you don't sell it or assign it out, you're not even stuck with it. You don't have to perform. You can cancel in your inspection. I'm incurring a lot of risk because look at COVID, for example. Oh my God, you're going to go bankrupt. You talked about what are your hardships or what things have you dealt with. I'm thinking, okay, when COVID hit, I mentally said, geez, if 50% of my tenants don't pay, where does that leave me? You run all the forecasts in the world. Fortunately, I have great relationships with my tenants, and that's where that comes in. In my phone, I have every single tenant's name, phone number. They can call me at any time. People are like, you're crazy.
So you property manage.
I'm vertically integrated. I don't outsource a thing. I think that is so instrumental in my business, my retention, my lack of turnover, my ability to get referrals. So when you talk about what one thing happened, which transpired that domino effect, it's by keeping these relationships and self-managing and being in the thick of things, on the front lines, like in the Marines. I'm in there with the boys, myself, rolling up my sleeves with the gun. You get a lot more referrals, and you just get that steady business. People talk and say, he's a good buyer. He executes. He's not going to dick you around. He's not going to commit to something and then retrade you or deal with some bullshit. You always know what you're going to get. I'm laying it on the table right now, full transparency. There's no retrade. There's no BS. We're going to have a good seamless deal. We're going to have fun on the whole road, and it's going to get easier. You talked about, if you're training for a marathon or your first road bike on the road, it's scary. You get dropped. But I guarantee that next ride, you're going to humble yourself. You're maybe not going to try and overtake your buddy. You learn. It gets easier over time. Sure. You're going to build yourself up so that ride gets easier, no different than in this business.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
For sure. So just to kind of get us caught up, now you're 13, 14, 15, you're acquiring a bunch of these assets. Mm-hmm. You still have the flip model in your hand. So you mentioned early on, hey, I'll put it on at 215, I'll put it on for rent at 1,700, and I'll leverage the two against each other or I'll leverage the buyer against it. I don't need it. Yeah. Are you looking to sell everything as you're marketing to rent and just whatever sticks?
Not necessarily. There's certain things that are amazing rentals. Like you buy and you're like, oh my God, I know for sure. Like I won't even list this for sale because it's such a good rental. I know this area is about to take off, or it's there's one in North Phoenix right now. I just left the Blue Wall one I just put on there. Yeah. I could have flipped it, but I knew it's a great area. It's right by a school. It's right by the 51 or the 101. It's an area that is Wall Street sexy. I got a good buy price on it. It just makes sense. I put a lot of sweat equity into that deal. Did a beautiful design like I do. I care. I'm passionate about that. If you're not excited about your house and you don't want to show them off, you should find another house or another.
For sure, yeah.
I see your house in the historic district with the landscaping, your partnerships out front. It's fun, and that passion drives people's interest and enthusiasm and excitement, and you're appealing to the emotions. I love that. It's all part of that, engagement.
Yeah. So is that the mic drop for Zack? Like when you're done with 250, 300 homes, like is this Wall Street you sell off and you walk out here and do something?
No, I'd be bored. I like the annuity of income.
But you, for sure. But you go 150 miles an hour on whatever you're doing, right? And until you don't have fun anymore, right? Like at what point does something else grab you? Like I know you had the ability to step away from real estate based on the market, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go into the Ironmans and you're CrossFitting for free and coaching and everything else. Like now you're looking at building a coaching model. You're on your way to building a coaching model, which I think, bro, like honestly, man, like I'm so pumped to see what you do with that and to learn more from you. Because I think like the give back to the young guys and the young people that are coming in this space and trying to figure things out. Like, what a great opportunity to have somebody like you on their side. So I hope you fucking crush that.
I appreciate it.
But that kind of begs the question too, man. Like, you can't give 150% to both of those pieces, right? Like, at what point is this enough? Like, I mean, are you 70 years old with your checkbook in your pocket?
Absolutely. My grandfather was the same. He'd drive up. He'd say, I just got this fucking deal on this business in Illinois. I'm not sure what kind of business it is, but here's the revenues, and he's excited.
Yeah.
I just want to wake up excited regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of the notion.
Have you ever bought a business?
No, never bought a business.
So it's always been real estate.
Always been real estate.
You either sold Snickers or
yeah, selling candy bars and returning pop cans and selling bagels. My buddy's bagel business, indoor. Remember those urinal advertisings? Did that in college. You name it, I looked at all.
Yeah, and crushed all those spaces too.
There
right?
you go.
Yeah,
killed it.
Yeah. So all right. So as we're rolling into this COVID thing, right? Is this another downturn coming?
I don't necessarily see that happening here. I think it depends on where you're at in the market. I think that I'm still cautiously optimistic. I put my money where my mouth is. I see people like freaking out. Even in a recession, sometimes real estate prices don't necessarily change, and you've seen that, on all the statistics, and you read the Cromford reports and everything else. Our market has been okay, locally. We still have a lot of people coming here. We got good business. We're not at some crazy numbers where we were before. There's not, if you look at the loans, the people that acquired these loans in the past, 5-10 years after we had our downturn, it's a much more stabilized market. It's not like you had a heartbeat before and you're, a dishwasher and you own
Everybody's
8
got
houses.
skin in the game.
Everybody has skin in the game. People have equity right now.
Yeah.
So
fixed rate mortgages.
Totally. Banks are being lenient. They don't want to take these back. So they're doing the whole forbearance stuff. Yeah. So people are kind of understand the writing on the wall before to mitigate what transpired before from happening. So like I said before, I'm not so worried about fluctuations. I'm not over levered. I've structured for a type of situation like this. No, did I ever see this coming? Nobody did. If I did, I'd be at Vegas at the roulette table betting on one number and hoping it hits. But all you can do is deal with the cards that pop up in your hand and make the most of it. And I've been buying into the market because I'm still cautiously optimistic. Of course, I'm buying a little bit deeper to mitigate risk. But again, in the buy and hold, as long as I'm not over levered and I can offset the cost of my capital, then it's a win. Yeah.
So before we wrap this up, so you have a tranche of homes. Let's say you got 10 homes for easy math, a $100,000 buy. You got $1 million worth of assets that you paid cash for, right? So you say, hey, bank, I want a line of credit against this at 65% or 70% or 60%. So they give you $700,000 line of credit at 4 or 5%, 3%, whatever the number is. You go ramp that up, stabilize that out, get that debt paid off with your rents, and now you got $2 million worth of assets, and you go get 1.4 million, and you keep doing that. Is that kind of the basic strategy?
To a certain degree, except for the fact that if I paid $1 million, here's the beauty of it, I didn't pay retail for those homes. So like you, we want deals. So that $1 million is worth, let's say, $1.2 million.
2.5 or 2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then at the 65 or 70 cents, I'm almost recouping all the original money.
Cost.
So if you play your cards right and you're transparent in terms of your bank, and this is key. Most people may go collect cash from their tenants, or they may do some shady accounting. Banks want to see your tax returns. You got to show your debt to income. It's not just about the assets. They want to see what skin you have in the game, where you acquiring these. They want to see the story, your history. So everything I do checks out. Here's all my rental reports. Here's my accounting. Here's my tenants. Do all your due diligence. Here's my blood. Here's my semen sample. Here's everything that you need to.
Who gets the semen salmon out?
Well, hey. So
can't give out all the secrets.
No, we don't give them all. So here you go. Here's all your due diligence. But the notion is you can almost turn those $1 million multiple times if you're buying diligently,
right? And
then pledging them.
So how are you going to instruct these young kids coming up that don't have the cash, don't have the ability to get these lines of credit? Like, what's their entry? I mean, what's going to be that little tidbit you can get somebody who's getting started? Maybe whatever, young kid getting started off, or a guy kind of refreshing. How do they get rolling?
Yeah, great question. So my market isn't just for these young kids out of college, 18, and they've never done a deal. A lot of my target market will be real estate agents that already have income, or you're a doctor and you're tired of investing in the market because of the volatility and the risk, and you don't have control of it. The nice thing about real estate is we have some level of control. It's tangible. Just because a whisper, a rumor in a company or a pharmaceutical company could grow that thing 3,000%, but all of a sudden their FDA test blows up and you lost all your money. I don't think people want to incur that type of risk. So if you can structure, especially being a doctor, an attorney, or someone that makes significant income, to lever that income in a passive manner, even if you outsource the management because you're doing your core competency, law or doctor,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, or you're an agent and you have some more artillery in your pocket, like you say, I don't want to be that guy that wants to be seen driving around, but you would if it was $1 million home or 500,000. You don't necessarily care if you're going to get paid significantly for your time, or you like the individual. I don't drive Mrs. Jones around in my car. I don't have the patience for it. It's not my core competency.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Sure.
But if Mrs. Jones needed to sell her house, you would buy it. So it's the same thing. It's arming yourself with that utility. But reverting back to your question, so
Sure.
somebody that comes out, they don't have the capital, they haven't done it, they haven't qualified. There's a thing called OPM and also hard money. So there's methodologies and strategies out there to capitalize. It's all about the acquisition. So if you tie up and you understand how to get that right deal at the right price, the money will always follow
Right.
that. And so there's multiple strategies to get the funds.
There's always a buyer for a good deal, right?
Absolutely. Every toilet has a seat.
Every toilet has a seat. Do we keep going after that?
Well,
Well, listen, man, I honestly, dude, like, no bullshit. It's been a pleasure to get to talk to you for a little bit of time here, to get caught up with you, get to know you a little better. It's been really fun watching you, getting to know you a little bit more, and just seeing the success and knowing that you're doing a lot of things. You're doing, seems like everything the right way, but from an outside looking in, you got a good reputation. You do things the right way, and you're definitely. I think the people, like I said earlier, they have the ability to learn from you, including myself during this hour, and then on social media, and then through your courses. I think it's a tremendous asset. So thanks for giving back, and appreciate you stopping in.
No, I appreciate being here, and this thing's going to be phenomenal. I can't wait to lever this space. I'm going to rent out this podcast.
This is your space.
This is amazing.
Yeah, come anytime.
Good to see you, and hopefully I'll see you on the road blowing by all the cars at 50 on 45 on Tatum.
Don't pull out of your gate onto.
I'll wait for that thing to go green. Don't worry.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
All right, brother. Appreciate
Good
you.
to have you.
Thanks, man.